Welcome back. This is Hope Adon right here at Hope TV, where you look and you live. Time for the newspaper review. My name is George Gishuru.
And my name is Beatrice Nudi, and we start off with the Standard. And the top story here on the top page is a return of sycophants. And it's saying, check quality of advice you get. These are the words of Mumia's East MP, Peter Salasya, to President William Ruto if he wished to fulfill his pledges, with the MP claiming the men surrounding him tell him what he wants to hear. This is pages 6 and 7. And I see they are telling you SHA is working when it is not. The new university funding model is not working. I know you have the heart to help the country. They don't want you to know the truth. This is quite interesting. Return of the sycophants covered on pages 6 and also 7. And you can look at that in more details. Moving on, I see here, of course, we have the top story that is looming all over X and all over social media. Change of guard. Donald Trump is sworn in as the 47th U.S. president in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda in Washington, D.C. And this did happen yesterday. Moving on, I see government to recruit 10,000 police officers. Page 9 here, saying Interior Ministry says it is seeking funds to increase members of the service for the first time in 3 years. And moving on, I see why January blues may extend deep into 2025. This is pages 2 here, saying why public debt is tightening its grip on Kenya's strained wallets. State officials have failed to account for borrowed funds, and over-reliance on borrowing is proving unsustainable. The Kenya Revenue Authority is under pressure to collect more taxes to pay off debt. And Parliament report here says Kenya needs to collect more money, spend carefully, and manage its debt better, especially after losing the Finance Bill 2024. But I feel here that if we were to spend carefully,
yes,
we will eliminate the need to collect more money.
True.
So basically, that's just what it is. If
you know, it's what you have been learning on Monday's financial fitness.
Exactly.
Don't live, beyond your means. Even as a country, it also applies. Even as a country, it applies to the same. So how much do we collect per year? What are the 50-30-20?
Of our government.
Exactly, of our government. So the priority areas, the priority sectors, what we need to do in as far as repayment of debts, loans are concerned. And then what goes to development. Use what you have. Entertainment
should take up a small percentage, not more than the basic needs.
So priority is the issue. In Kenya, let me tell you, and it has been said over and over again, we don't have a revenue problem.
It's an expenditure problem. Just yesterday, we covered a story where, is it MPs now using helicopters
exactly.
to move around?
Yes.
So tell me. Because all this is taxpayers' money.
Exactly. And you see, it's remember the president after the good governance. I don't like calling them anti-government because they were not anti-government. There was just an agitation for proper governance. The president promising austerity measures, to save money and avoid reckless expenditure. But we are seeing a return of the same, is renovating some of these offices and houses a priority. The deputy president's residence, State House, is that a priority area? So
at such a time as this.
Exactly, when Kenyans are struggling, those are not priority areas. Education, we still are waiting for capitation to be sent to school. Now, those are priority areas.
Exactly.
Health as well. But then we are not looking at that. And instead we are looking elsewhere. So
quite unfortunate. Let's keep praying for this nation. And moving on, page 3, how woman used stolen ID to entrap man for child upkeep. Oh my, the situation is getting worse. 2 DNA tests proved that the man was not the biological father of the minor. The woman insisted that the man had informally agreed to take care. Informally. Mind your words is what the story is telling us today. But page 4 is covering ODM leaders, mixed signals fuel confusion over 2027 election plans. We are already gearing up towards that. ODM faces pivotal choice, support Ruto or maintain opposition stance ahead of 2027 election battle. We are waiting to see how this turns out now that just the other day there was a handshake. Top party leaders have shifted from harsh critics of the state to its key defenders. We are really curious to see how these things pan out. But page 11 is covering NAS's union halts strike as ministry promises action. So I see the union is demanding payment of all salary arrears owed to the nurses. Anesthetics trained nurses have been allowed to perform their role independently. And some of the nurses' demands, number one, I see placement of 2,700 UHC nurses on a permanent and pensionable basis, allowing aesthetic nurses to practice independently. We have employment of more nurses to bridge shortage. They are asking for promotions, redesignation of nurses, implementation of 2017 return to work formula, and lastly, conclusion and signing of nurses 2017 CBA by the counties. Moving on to the Financial Standard pullout today, the story here, which is making the cover story, is Kenya's mining risk hitting rock bottom amid declining trend. Latest data shows the sector contracted 11.1% in the third quarter of 2024, with the Green projecting going into the new year following the winding up of the country's most successful project in Kwale. And moving on to the sports pages, page 38 is saying, Born Munro, shine on your way. Fly away home. So Kenya mourns death of Mathare United founder Bob Munro. And Munro founded Mathare Youth Sport Association, MYSA, in 1987. And may his soul rest in peace. That's a story covered on page 38 and also 39. The back page 40, Yamal symbol of rising Barca, Barcelona aiming for Champions League progress, and the Blaugrana are second in standings behind leaders Liverpool. A story covered on page 40.
All right, let's look now at what's being reported in the Daily Nation. The headline, it's a political one. Uhuru versus Ruto season 2, Gen Z tiff. The recent rapprochement between President William Ruto and his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta has taken a new twist after a public exchange of words cast doubts on their supposed truths, even as the former head of state's Jubilee Party ruled out rumors of a political deal. It's a story that you can get on page 4. President's allies accusing his predecessor of inciting the youth to cause chaos instead of offering solutions. Kenyatta caught the country by surprise after he urged Gen Zs to fight for their rights against the Ruto administration. It's a story that you can get on page 4 and on page 7. They say Uhuru has no deal with Ruto. Jubilee Party says former president recently urged Gen Z to keep fighting for their rights. And now the Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni accusing the president of spinning meeting with Kenyatta at the latter's home in Ishaweri. And so do not get bothered by propaganda that our leader has abandoned us and joined the government to help it get re-elected in 2027. That was Jeremiah Kioni. You can read that story. It's covered on page 4 and page 7 as well. I also see on page 14, Odinga family partners in 120 billion shillings housing project. It's a story that is on page number 14. Project replaces a disputed molasses plant. Private developer Gulf Cup Real Estate to begin project in Kisumu immediately. And they are saying the project on a 285-acre parcel owned by the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga family will consist of 1,400 houses, commercial premises, and social amenities such as schools and hospitals. That is a story on page 14. I also see funding for DP office up 164% after Kindiki moved in. It's a story that is on page 23 inside the Nation, and going there to see some of these details of the same story. And they are talking of, that is covered on the business section actually. DP office funding up 164% after Kindiki appointment. Exchequer funding of the office averaged 110.6 million monthly. So funding to the office rose to 875 million million from 332 million 3 months to end of September. That you can read on page 23. There is a very sad story here. When love goes sour, the tragic end of 3 women. So 1 man in custody, another on the run, the third dead after taking his own life. The aftermath of 3 murders, all the consequences of love gone sour, leaving the families of 3 women grieving, the homicide detectives trying to build a case against the prime suspects. Investigations into the 3 murders continue even as 34-member task force established by President Ruto and led by former Deputy Chief Justice Nancy Baraza starts its job of fighting against gender violence, including femicide. It's a story that is on page 2 and page 3. Still on the front page, covered inside, Trump vows swift action as he is sworn in for a second time. So Donald Trump was sworn in as the 47th president of the United States by Chief Justice John Roberts yesterday. Trump, after taking over the oath of office, vowed to recognize only 2 genders, male and female, deport millions of immigrants, secure retributions against his political enemies, and transform the role of the U.S. on the world stage. You can read that story on page number 8 as well. Right. Looking at some of the other stories inside the Daily Nation this morning. We have the pullout and the DN2 powering SME pullout. This morning, they talk of cycle, don't drive to work. That's what you can read. Business hopes to convince more Kenyans to take up bike riding and not just for leisure or exercise. It's on page 2 and 3. And then green and sustainable mobility drivers. That is a very interesting story also that you can read. DN2 Healthy Nation pullout, Parkinson's warriors amid costly treatment, stigma, and a lack of awareness. Patients are finding ways to live with the disease. So you can read that on the pullout as well. The county news. Residents of a village in Mukurweini set the main suspect's house on fire. We are talking of separation, Happy New Year reunion, and then murder. A very sad story there. The county news, you can read that as well. 8,000 bright but needy students in day schools to get free education. That is in Murang'a County as well. International news, Ukrainians tired by war as new Trump era starts. It is unclear if Trump will keep supplying Ukraine with weapons. U.S. President's aides admitted that ending the war could take months. That's in the international page. Power bills dip slightly on lower fuel charge. That's on the business section. Let's go to the back page of the Nation. KRA misses revenue target by 163 billion. In first half, Parliamentary Budget Office faults Treasury for seeming obsession with new tax policies instead of revamping collection system. Also, I see former intern tutors demand pay and inclusion in unions. That is covered on the back page of the Daily Nation. And of course, I saw these also covered on the Standard, and also it's another tribute this time round on the Daily Nation of an icon of football in Kenya, Bob Mundro. Bell tolls for towering figure who transformed Kenyan football by forming MISA. That was way back in 1987. And Canadian-born football administrator and philanthropist who found new home in Kenya in the 1980s, established a template for talent development, modern management of club football. And he's credited with midwifing development of the Kenyan Premier League and was a fearless critic of Kenya's troubled management of the game at times, risking his own life to call out corrupt officials. Tributes pour in for Mathare United's founder, that is Bob Mundro, who passed on Sunday. And he was born in 1942 and passed on this year. So you can read that profile as well. Then I see Motiso, London Marathon will be a pressure cooker. Reigning champion will come up against his compatriots Kipchoge and Sawe and Ugandan runner Kiplimo on the 27th of April. 28-year-old believes Richfield could see the world record broken. In motorsport, Monte Carlo Rally opens World Rally Championship. That is a story on page number 29 inside the Daily Nation. Quickly, the Business Daily, private sector loans growth shrinks first time in 22 years. Bank lending rates remain high despite CBK rate cuts. Manufacturing, finance, trade, construction take a hit. And Treasury revises 2024 economic growth forecast downwards following a slower than expected performance in the first 3 quarters and poor credit to the private sector. And tea growers protest land invasions, that is in Nandi County. State cancels lucrative tourist insurance tender after a backlash. So the Immigration Department has terminated a controversial multi-billion shilling tender for the newly introduced compulsory medical insurance for foreigners visiting Kenya after local insurers complained of discrimination. You can read that on the Business Daily and much more in today's dailies.
All right, beautiful. And right now it's time for us to pave way for the video of the day. And it's called Tear Stains on My Bible by Mary Lowe. And I'm looking forward to listening to it. Let's have a look. And then when we come back, we'll talk about it even as we usher in today's convo.